You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
And today, on our second host call of the weekend, we're getting back to your questions. Everything from pharmaceutical drugs, talking about their adverse reactions and effects, looking at organic foods. Why should we really choose those? Are they really any better than regular conventional-based foods? And also a couple rapid-fire questions from one listener who wants to talk about detoxification and acne as well. So let's get right into those. Great questions today, as always, and I wouldn't expect anything less, of course. So we're looking at our first question from Jessica. Jessica is asking, my 83-year-old grandmother is on PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, and faints easily. Her MD is simply saying, take more magnesium. Is this correct? Should she be doing any more? Well, so here's the thing. At 83 years old, she might have been on these for 30 years now. A proton pump inhibitor basically doesn't allow you to make stomach acid. And it doesn't allow you to make stomach acid because people may have been given it because they had an ulcer in their stomach. They had acid reflux, something called dyspepsia. They might have Barrett's esophageal. They might have gastritis. So what happens is an MD or PCP will then prescribe this thing like just called a proton pump inhibitor to block stomach acid. So, well, it cuts back on acid reflux, of course, right? So if you don't have acid, it's hard to have an ulcer. It's hard to get this acid reflux coming up, so you're not going to feel as much of the Barrett's. But here's the thing. If you don't have stomach acid, good luck breaking down any protein, because protein gets broken down in acid. No acid, very difficult time breaking down protein, which means you're going to have a difficult time absorbing and getting the nutrients that you need from your foods. That means amino acids, that means calcium, that means magnesium, that means sodium, that means chloride. All the stuff that your body runs on needs to be broken down by this normal process in our body called acid. So basically enzymes start it, then it goes to acid in the stomach, then it hits bile when it gets into the small intestine, the duodenum, and then our bacteria start to break it down and make vitamins and neurotransmitters and all great stuff from there. Well, if you don't have acid, you're not going to produce as much bile, typically, because you don't need to drop as much bile, and that's going to allow for more fermentation in the gut. This is a really bad scenario. I see any acid blockers as one of the number one things to really prevent a person from staying very healthy their entire life. I see it, well, we'll put it this way. I don't want to be too harsh. It's not a good thing, right? So you should definitely work your hardest to get off of them. Now, if you've been on them for 20, 30 years, that's going to be a much slower process. I understand that. But if someone is fainting or feeling lightheaded, that is a symptom of, and one of the side effects, one of the many side effects of the headache, the nausea, diarrhea, abdominal pain, fatigue, dizziness, myopathy, which means muscle weakness, depression, anxiety, constipation, rashes, itching, rhabdomyolysis, which is like all sorts of things from protein and muscle breakdown, deficiency in micronutrients, bone fractures, osteoporosis, increase in stomach bacteria, increase in parasites, increase in C. diff. Do you see why this might not be a good idea to take these, especially for the long term? And especially since they've been told, like, don't give people these for more than 2 weeks in a row. But what happens is MDs, and it's not their fault, are not equipped with what to do when someone has stomach acid. They can't give suggestions. They're not taught it in school. So how would you possibly give this suggestion to your patient? Not the MD's fault. It's the American Medical Association and the teaching of that. They're not a million things. There are only a dozen things, and you could use those to get rid of high stomach acid. But we're not taught that. They're not taught that. So what are you supposed to do? Well, you can only do one thing. Give a PPRI to get rid of these stomach-based issues, or you give something called an H2 receptor antagonist, which is just another way, again, to block stomach acid. So a PPI blocks hydrogen ions, basically, and stomach acid is made up of HCl, hydrogen chloride. So if you don't have the H part of the HCl, you can't make HCl. You can't make hydrochloric acid. So anyway, here's the thing. You can't just get magnesium. Magnesium could actually cause someone to faint more or go even lower blood pressure. And if your grandmother is dealing with actually too little calcium or too little balance of calcium to magnesium, and she's dealing with low blood pressure, you give someone with low blood pressure magnesium, they're going to faint even more. They're going to feel even more lightheaded. That's not the play. The play here, the smart move is to look at maybe she actually is lacking sodium chloride. Maybe she would do a lot better with a little bit of a pinch of sea salt with all of her meals. That could help out a lot. So there's no easy answer because she's not working with me as my wellness client. But what I would say is, sure, you can certainly give the magnesium, but we're looking at then more of an overall electrolyte formula of sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium, or at least a little bit of that pinch of sea salt. So unfortunately, Jessica, no easy answer. You're going to have to use a full protocol for your grandmother, or as best you can to get her just a little healthier, obviously, in general. All right, the second one is a follow-up from, this is the Jessica and Erica show today. So I have two questions. They're both great from these two listeners. Jessica's second question is, my fiance and I listen to your podcast every night. We love it, love to listen together, which I really appreciate. Really happy that the both of you are listening to that together. That's fantastic. You can start to get healthier together. That's really what it's all about. So I'm having difficulty convincing her husband or fiance to eat organic. So, well, here's the thing. A lot of people don't necessarily understand why eating organic, because when you look at organic foods versus non-organic foods, conventional foods, people say, well, they're exactly the same. They're exactly the same nutritional makeup. Now, I would say those people are correct only at a surface level, meaning like if you look at a organic almond versus a conventional almond, you are looking at the same amount of protein, you're looking at the same amount of fat, and the same amount of carbohydrates, right? So let's just say there's 12 grams of fat or so in an almond in a fourth of a cup. Maybe there's 8 or so grams of carbs, and maybe there's 5 or so grams of protein. Okay, well, that's the same breakdown for both organic and conventional. It's just to say, see, it makes no difference whatsoever, right? You eat organic or you eat conventional. It makes no difference. Well, that's only if you like looking at things at a surface level. At a deeper level, which is what we look at in natural medicine, which is what it's all about, deeper level, is that the micros are very different. That means the omega-3s to omega-6s are different. That means the inflammation versus anti-inflammatories are different. That means the antioxidants are different. When you look at chromium, when you look at iodine, when you look at selenium, when you look at copper, when you look at zinc, when you look at magnesium, potassium, calcium, and what am I missing? Sodium in there, phosphorus, those are different. Why are they different in conventional versus organic? Because the soil's different. With conventional foods, the soil doesn't matter to them. They just load it up with nitrogen, basically. So it helps actually the food grow really fast. But what is missing is if your soil does not have the nutrients that the food is supposed to get, where are the nutrients supposed to come from? It has to be in the soil. The soil is what matters. The bacteria in the soil, the humic acid and all this other great stuff allows for this uptake of minerals from the soil into the food, and then we eat the food and we get the minerals. Well, they've shown for both conventional and organic that there's less nutrients, which the micronutrients, which are the minerals, not the macros, not the protein, fat, and carbs. We don't care about that for a moment. We care about the micros. Well, over the past 50 years, there's been less and less and less because there's less of it in the soil. Well, organic at least has more, like double micros than it does conventional. So one reason to eat organic is because you're going to get more out of your food. You're going to get more nutrition. That matters so much more. It's not just about protein, carbs, and fat. That's not what it's all about. That's simple. That's energy. Forget about that. Think about what keeps your body healthy, what gives you energy. That's much deeper. And the number one reason is, yes, you can use organic pesticides. I understand that. There's copper pesticides, there's things like that. But you're not eating bug spray. That's like so important. People don't get it that the pesticides, literally you are swallowing bug spray with conventional based foods. If you would not spray bug spray in your mouth, you're not going to want to eat conventional fruits and vegetables. Can you wash it off some? Yes, but with a lot, you can't. You just can't. And when you eat GMOs, it's built into the fruit or vegetable itself. It's just so important. You're spending a couple dollars more, and I understand there's an expense to this. I really do. I get that. So if the food is below the soil, a lot of times we say, okay, well, it's not as bad to buy conventional because you're not directly getting sprayed on that food itself. Or if you can peel it, well, you're getting less of it. I understand that. So at least go for the fruits that you can't wash it off. But if possible, at least understand this. It really does matter to eat organic. Now, from a financial perspective, sometimes it's not always realistic. And I do get that. I do understand that. So if you have to eat the conventional base, peel whatever you can peel, but again, you're not getting as much antioxidants. But then after that, look at the clean 15 and the dirty dozen and all of those, and try to at least stick with that. But let's not confuse ourselves. There's a huge difference between organic and for nutrition and sprays and not organic conventional. Huge difference. All right, I went way too far on that. Let's get into our next question, and that is Erica. Erica's asking, why am I getting cystic acne even when I'm eating well? Okay. So cystic acne, we're going to go through this quick. Cystic acne and acne in general, we can look at it this way. The blood is unclean. That's always been how it's looked at in Ayurvedic medicine, 6,000 years old, traditional Chinese medicine, and it's even looked at that way in conventional medicine. And how do we know that? Well, they give antibiotics, right? So you're giving antibiotics for someone that has larger amounts of acne. Why? Well, it's killing off bacteria. And typically that bacterial overgrowth is coming from the gut, is coming from the intestines. So our job first, Erica, is to look at what's going on with that gut. Run an organic acids test. Look at, is there fungal-based overgrowth? Is there Clostridium difficile-based overgrowth? Is there some type of other bacterial overgrowth? Look at that first. Then wipe that out. Remove that bacteria naturally like you would with antibiotics, but do it naturally. Second, if you need to go deeper, which you might, you'll want to look at hormones. Do you have a larger DHEA to testosterone conversion? Do you have higher levels of estrogen? Those things will increase. I actually answered this in a little different way for Aaron yesterday. Okay, if your acne increases a week or so before you get your period, you'll want to look at hormones as well. All right, that's very, very important. If it's kind of stable all month long, look at the gut. Do an organic acids test. Check that out. You can even do a hair tissue mineral analysis if you want to look at stress levels as well. Look at that first. That's our place. Do a detoxification. Do a 21-day detox. You're going to get results from that alone. And that's because you're not going to be feeding the bacteria. You're not going to be wiping it out as well. I understand that. But you're going to be not feeding the bacteria and you're going to be cleaning your blood. It's so important. That's what I recommend. First, do the 21-day detox. Do the organic acids test right before you do the detox. Get your results and then move from there. All right, Erica's second question is, should I do dry brushing, coffee enemas, oil pulling, or tongue scraping? I can only find time for one a day. Okay, great question. Well, here's the thing. Tongue scraping and oil pulling are doing a lot for the malt itself. They're removing bacteria, okay? So here's the thing. I would do this. Give me 5 minutes per day. Here's what I would do. Okay. I would wake up. I would brush your teeth, scrape your tongue. You have to brush your teeth anyways, right? Scraping your tongue will take 20 seconds, maybe 10 seconds, even less. Okay. So that doesn't count as part of your time. You have to brush your teeth anyways. Then you're going to oil pull, and you're going to oil pull for 10 minutes, right? So if you can only do 5, only do 5. But while you're oil pulling, you're not doing anything else, so you can do your dry brushing. Dry brushing takes 5 minutes. Dry brushing, I'll do a whole episode on that, but it's simply taking a dry brush that costs you maybe $10, and you're going to brush and you're going to stroke very gently, basically, from your extremities towards the heart. I'll talk about that in the future, but if you give me 5 minutes a day, I can have you do all of them, and that's the great thing. So you can do that. You can find 5 minutes a day right before you get in the shower. Put the oil in your mouth. You're going to start swishing it around. You're going to do your dry brushing. You're going to spit that oil into the trash. You're going to be done with your dry brushing. You're going to hop in the shower. That's part of your new routine. We'll save coffee enemas for another day. So Erica, hopefully that answers your question. A little bit rapid fire there, but that's really all you need. That is your 5-minute fix right there. Thank you everyone for tuning in to another edition of the Cabral House Call. Love answering your questions. If you have a question of your own, feel free to go to stevencabral.com/Ask Cabral. Get ready to next week. We have another Motivation Monday, Total Wellness Tuesday, Weight Loss Wednesday, Training Thursday, and Friday review. So definitely be back on Monday. Looking forward to more episodes to bring you my tips that I use every day in my Boston practice. Thanks again. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.